The financial system is under attack. The cracks are beginning to show as banks are being bailed out and hard-working people yet again are left to pick up the pieces. This is unacceptable. We were told that after the 2008 financial crash that measures were put in place so that this could not happen again. Personally, I don't want to risk my family's financial future to find out if that's true or not. Are you prepared? Do you have a plan? Can you weather the storm with confidence? Don't be at the back of the line. Act now. Visit golbusters.co.uk and protect your family today.
Good day and welcome to today's Gold Show, Week 6. I'm thrilled to have my partner in crime, Paul Brooker, and the unstoppable Golbuster boys, Adam and James, joining us today. And don't forget, you'll want to stick around until the end because we will be announcing the winner of a shining 1 ounce silver coin. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of gold. And I'm going to start with a fact of the day. A fact: more women than ever are buying gold and silver. The Royal Mint has said, as gold prices hit record high, the Royal Mint has recorded an increase in the proportion of women investing in precious metals. Female investors now make up more than a quarter, 26%, of Royal Mint customers, up from 1 in 12, 8% in 2018. And I can say I am one of those women. What's your thoughts, Adam?
Yeah, great. I think, look, the more people that see the power of metals and get them in their hands, the better. For us, we want to help as many people as possible. I think there's a stat out there. I might get this a little bit wrong, but I'm sure there's something like 11% of all the world's gold is owned by Indian housewives, because culturally, in Indian culture, they give gold and they know the power of gold from just it's just something that's deep within their culture and they just know to do it. And the housewives are the ones that look after the finances. So as long as gold's bringing power to people, we want it to bring power to as many people as possible.
I have a question from one of our Insider Club members. Why isn't silver going up as much as gold? James?
It is going up. It's going up more than gold as a percentage. If you look back at the past 10 years, it's actually gone up more than what gold has. It might not look as if it has, but in percentage terms, it has. It's gone up far more. Always reading, always doing my research and looking at what other people are saying. And the predictions out there at the minute are saying that precious metals in general are not stopping. They don't feel that they're stopping. That gold's going to keep on heading up the way. They reckon $3,000 an ounce by next year. But they reckon silver's going to be up at like $45 an ounce, which is a much bigger gain than what gold has had. But yeah, if you look at the numbers as a percentage term, silver's actually grown far more in price terms than what gold has.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because look, for silver to go up, let's say silver's $20 an ounce. For silver to go up 10%, it has to go up $2 an ounce. For gold at $2,000 an ounce to go up 10%, it's got to go $200 an ounce up. So you can't every dollar per ounce is not dealt equally. It's like James said, you have to look at a percentage of your starting point and how much it's gone up as a percentage. And that's why we look at the ratio, because the ratio compares the two. And if one's going up more than the other, then the ratio moves. Equally, if silver was at $20 an ounce and it went to $40 an ounce, it doubled. And gold was at $2,000 an ounce and it went to $4,000 an ounce, the gold-silver ratio wouldn't change because both have gone up by equal amounts in percentage terms. So we look at the ratio and the ratio tells us one number rather than looking at two numbers. We can actually tell what's going on relative to each other just from that. And that for us has been the most useful tool, bar none.
Just something to think about also, Drew and Paul, is that a lot of the focus is mainly always on gold, isn't it? but maybe we should be looking at where the focus isn't. That's normally where the profit is to be made, is looking at something that no one else is looking at. People are starting to look at silver now. Look at what Russia has just said, what Putin has just acknowledged, that is going to be their central bank is going to be, I don't know how much yet, but they're looking at purchasing silver for the first time. They're holding silver. So, and if you look back in history and do your own research, you'll see that gold's the leader. Gold always does its thing. It shoots up in times like this. But then the masses catch on to it. The masses try and jump in and think, oh, gold's too expensive. And where do they go? Silver. So, and silver is, I feel, this is just my thoughts. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything, but I honestly feel that silver is like ultra cheap still. It really is. And it's an advantage having silver as cheap as it is right now. And I think people should, if they can afford to, not overstretch, but if they can, just buy a little bit of silver and just sit on it. Or do what we do, of course, but yeah.
Now, moving on to the crypto space. Paul, what's the juicy gossip on the street this week with crypto?
Wow. The gossip at the moment is the WLFI token that Trump has been endorsing. I will say it is not his business. It's just been outed by a gentleman named CoffeeZilla. Now, anyone who's on the internet, I think, has probably bumped into this guy without realizing it. He exposes all the scams out there. Now, he's done a massive deep dive on WLFI token and the gentleman behind it, and it doesn't make for a good story about it. There's not enough that they've done to tell the crypto community. Bearing in mind, the crypto community isn't what it was 10 years ago, where people were ill-informed. It's seriously informed now. They're like, well, you're telling us nothing and you're expecting us to hand over millions of dollars. No, we're not doing that. And the gentleman behind it, one guy, and I can't make this up, ran a website where you would hire him to teach you and to guide you on how to pick up a hotter girlfriend than you do now. I mean, doesn't bode well for a crypto business, does it?
It's a lost art, for sure.
Honestly, I think the WLFI token is dead in the water now. I didn't want it to be dead in the water, but I think it is. And I think the Trumps are going to start distancing themselves from it, because Donald Trump isn't a crypto guy. He's old school. He's money.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
You know? Crypto's new to him. Crypto's new to that entire generation. And I think he's put his name forward because he is backing the bigger crypto market.
But what went wrong, Paul? Was it the fact that, was it their audience,
Well, there's multiple reasons. First off, they just said, buy our token. Well, why? The token is non-transferable. It's only a governance token, so all you can do is just vote on it. So there's no technically real wealth to it. The group control over 75% of the tokens. Well, that means that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want with it. They wanted to raise $300 million from it. They raised about 12. And it was only open to accredited investors, which means you've got to be high net worth. And I'm not going to out this as a scam, but there was no crypto platform they were trading on. You were literally phoning them up going, I want to buy your token. Here's my money. And that was how the deal was being done, or through the website. So the fact that it wasn't on an exchange or the backing along those lines gives big worries. So I'm not going to say it's dead in the water, but right now, with the information at hand, I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole.
And let's move on to the SEC and Ripple. What's the latest on the street with that?
Well, they filed, obviously, their appeal 24 hours after the closing deadline. Now, I spoke to a lovely gentleman, Zach Zester, and he said about a month beforehand, one of the Ripple gentlemen, I won't drop his name, donated a few $1 million to the Kamala campaign. And next thing you know is the appeal comes in late. Now, speculation is when it goes to the court, it's going to get chucked out because you had your deadline, you missed it, tough luck. But we will have to wait and see on that one. Eyes are still on Ripple because they are going through the crucible. And I call it the trial by fire. All the big companies went through it. And when they come out of it, nothing sticks to them and they just make lots of money. But that's my personal opinion from the research I've done.
Now let's move on to Elon Musk. So he claims that his X payments could become half of the global financial system. It seems that Elon is taking over the world a little bit. He's just added 33.5 billion to his net worth on Thursday. What's your thoughts, guys?
I think with Elon's experience and history, obviously created PayPal, and obviously very technologically minded and knows a thing or two about how the world works and has seen a lot of things. I think it's a good thing. I think he is for freedom of speech. He is for democracy. Generally, all of his, I mean, I don't know every in and out of every part of all of his businesses, but as a general rule, and the way that he operates, he's wanting to do good, empowering things for everyday people. You know, the fact that they open source all of their algorithms, that they're not trying to push other people out. They're just saying, look, whoever's the best and whoever can operate the quickest and provide the best service, then great, you win. And we're in that race. I think the fact as well that I can't remember the exact strapline, but the mission of Tesla is to extend sustainable or speed up sustainable energy or something like that. They're not saying be the biggest car company in the world. Their mission is bigger than themselves, and they want to contribute to that bigger mission. The fact of making life multiplanetary with SpaceX is bigger than we want to be the number one space company in the world or in the universe or whatever it would be.
It's not about his ego, is it? It's about...
Yeah, they want to provide an alternative and have a bigger mission than themselves. And I think so far, again, no one's perfect, but so far, the things that he's doing seem to have a good and moral trajectory, I would say.
I'm going to jump in here and add as well, because everybody who knows me knows I'm a big advocate for XRP. He recently did a speech as well and said, I'm not endorsing, but I'm also not endorsing XRP. So there is a sneaky suspicion Ripple XRP could be part of the backbone of the new XPay. We will see though.
Oh, what other exciting news have you found this week?
Oh, excellent. So I'm just going to share my screen. Right, we've got to talk about the IMF because they've started making some noise again. And it's interesting because they are saying that if Trump brings in his trade tariffs, which he has talked about, but bearing in mind, this is a two-edged sword. He might want to bring in these trade tariffs to bolster the US dollar, but also he is trying to do something about income tax. So I think it's a two thing. Take from there, but put it over there. Now, the IMF has warned the trade tariffs favoured by US presidential candidate Donald Trump could hurt global growth as it upgraded its forecast for the UK economy. Now, that shocked me that the UK economy is going to grow. I thought that was hilarious. The Washington-based organisation said tariffs trigger tit-for-tat trade wars that impoverish the economies involved in the dispute and the wider global economy. It said there have been a very sharp increase in the number of trade distorting measures implemented by countries over the last 5 years, from 1,000 in 2019 to 3,000 today, and a fresh round of tariffs would create further harm. Now, we've got to analyse that story in a lot greater detail. Yes, they might be saying the UK is going to grow, but the IMF has backed Rachel Reeves by moving the goalposts on borrowing rules. So we are now going to start borrowing more than we should. And that is why we're going to have growth. Not because we got new businesses, because I don't know about Adam, James and Drew. I hardly see IBM has set up another new business in the UK. Apple set up another new business in the UK. I haven't heard anything like that. So where the growth is coming from totally baffles me. Other than we're borrowing money to fund this. And that scares me. And Adam, James, you both know what happens when you borrow. James, please jump in here. What happens?
It just goes ridiculous. You know, everyone thinks they're rich and then everything goes up in value and then it all goes oof, like a inflation goes through the roof, doesn't it? That's just keeping it really, really simple. We've seen it time and time before. What happened during COVID? All the money, all the free money that was handed out, all the money that was printed and handed out. Well, what happens eventually? It's, you know, if people aren't understanding this now, after what has happened over the last few years especially, then I don't think they'll ever get it. But it doesn't do us any favours. It might be good in the short term, but in the long term, it damages the economy. It damages normal average day people more than anybody else because they don't truly understand it. People in the know, they're fine. They know how to work it. They know how to. Because you can actually benefit from it if you know what you're doing. But the average person on the street has got no idea. No idea.
But this is where, Adam, inflation, is it gold's friend?
Yeah, well, there's a few things to pick apart here. Just to rewind a little bit. First of all, the government have rules of which they can borrow. And if they're hitting up against those rules, those limitations, it's almost like a country's credit score, like our individual credit score. It says how much you can borrow. Well, what the government can do, which we can't do as individuals, is change the rules, allowing us to then borrow more. If we said, okay, our credit score is whatever it is, and we can borrow a certain amount, and all of a sudden we're hitting that limit, we say, okay, we're just going to change how the calculation for the credit score is made. All of a sudden we can borrow more. But fundamentally, our financial our financial income and what supports that credit score and supports that debt hasn't changed. So what you're saying is we can tip the scales even more and even reset the scales so that without having to earn any more and generate any more, we can borrow more. And this is very hypocritical. It's all about the people tightening their belts and people need to pay more, people need to pay more taxes. And the government can just say, yeah, but we work differently to that. We just rewrite the rules. So we don't have to generate any more income. We just rewrite the rules on how much debt we can have. I think that's wrong, and I think it's a very cheap move for the government to then fund whatever plans that they've got and say, oh yeah, we're well within budget. Well, you just extended the budget. Let's be honest. That's the first thing. I think. Look, the more money that is created, as James said, it widens inequality. Let's follow this through. When when all this money was pumped into the system over the last few years, did everyday hardworking people become better off? No, people are struggling more than ever. So where did it go? It went into the hands of the wealthy. And what do those people do? They don't need that money to buy groceries and everyday items. They've got more than enough to cover that. They've now got extra money. What do they do with extra money? They put it into investments. So that's why houses went up. That's why gold went up. That's why the stock market went up, because people have got this additional income and they are investing it. And in times of inflation, this money needs to find a home. It has to. It's swirling around the system. Somewhere. Has to go somewhere. It's not going to everyday hardworking people. It's going into assets. And then the people that have the money and the knowledge invest. And what does that do? Makes them even more wealthy. I'm not against that. I'm not against people becoming wealthy. I'm just highlighting that the system is broken, and simply putting more money in, unless it gets to the right people in the right place, putting more money in has a detrimental effect to the vast majority, the masses of hardworking people. It just doesn't get to the right place.
Well, I have a fun fact for you guys today. Silver is the second metal other than yellow gold to make white gold.
Now we need to talk about in Zimbabwe's gold-backed currency, otherwise known as the ZiG. It's lost just about half its value. Now, this is something brand new. They set it's worth this in gold. Now, I believe the economy and the world platform is actually now valuing it at what it is. Because if it was me and I made a currency and I said, yes, 1 trillion of these is worth 1 ounce of gold, they might go, well, no, actually, 10 trillion of these is worth 1 ounce of gold. So I think the rest of the world is starting to find its feet with this. Adam, what's your thoughts on this?
I think anytime there's anything new, people are always trying to put a value on it. Same with, if it's a new cryptocurrency or a new fiat currency or anything new, a company that joins a stock market, has an initial public offering, everyone's trying to see, well, what does everyone else think? What's the consensus on this? Is it too high? Is it too low? And I think if I was a country that was bringing out a new currency, I would be tempted to overvalue it. I think that would be a natural. I mean, look, when people want to sell their own home, there's an emotional connection, isn't there? And they always say, but I think it's worth this. And the estate agent might say, but when you look at the other comparables in the area, we think it's more like this, and that's usually lower. And you say, but what the point of view you're coming from is, I've put so much time and effort into this. I want to see its true value, the blood, sweat, and tears I've put into it. But it's rarely the case. So I think there's a little bit of that going on. I think things over time do settle down, and they do find their true value. There's a consensus on what the value is. And look, I think they're bringing out a gold-backed currency, so it's backed by something, which I think is a smart move if you're starting a new currency and something of value, that it is backed by something that is a known. Otherwise, you have something totally unknown, and the fluctuation could be from 1 to 1 trillion. Like, who knows where that is? So, I think it'll find its feet and it'll settle down over time. And but time is the thing that it needs to do that.
Zimbabwe really do need some serious structural reforms to stabilise things. They've always had like a band-aid solution. It is unclear of what's going to happen with the ZiG. Even the government appears to have lost confidence in it. So we do have to just see what's going to happen. So I will just make people aware and reiterate, as I did on the Financial Friday news, the RV is not happening this week.
I want to talk to James about this image because James is our expert on the silver to gold ratio.
Oh, I love. You actually sent us that in the week, didn't you? Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Do you ever think it's ever going to go back to that, though, to anywhere near that? This is where the broader conversation needs to happen, doesn't it? Because we all know gold and silver are suppressed. The financial institutions sell more and make more appear on paper than there is in existence. And Adam and James know way more about this than I do. So I'm definitely going to defer over to you, James, first. It's just not true. The markets aren't true. And again, I'm trying to keep things simple again. Everything seems to be run from the financial markets, when actually physically, when you look at physical metals, it's a different picture. All the rules seem to be run from the markets. I would, if I were to say it to anybody, I would look at the real physical metals and not the markets to see what's really going on, and look at how much the ratio of gold to silver, what is taken from the earth. 30% of the world's mines only dig for silver. Silver's like I can't think of the terminology.
It's a byproduct.
A byproduct, a secondary product, byproduct, isn't it, normally? But if you look at how much gold is mined compared to silver, it doesn't come anywhere near. It doesn't match up to reality. It's like a big game that people are pulling strings to make things work for them personally. so they can get as much out of it as possible. But if normal people again don't understand the way that works, then they don't win. They just don't understand it. I don't think it'll ever go back to that level, to anywhere near that level. But if we had a reset, then maybe it would.
Let's not forget, I mean, if Russia start buying up silver in its droves, that ratio should reduce, I believe. Am I right in that, Adam?
Yeah, in theory. I mean, if there's enough market manipulation, then possibly not. I mean, people that have got gold don't want to see the value drop. They want to keep it there. So they'll do everything in their power to keep it there. I think there's two elements to any ratio, and that's the gold silver ratio. That is the price of silver and the price of gold. So are we saying that silver will shoot up to equal out that ratio to some degree, or are we saying that gold will drop, or a little bit of both? I can see silver shooting up as a more likely scenario than gold dropping to bring the ratio back to what it has been historically. I think one thing, just to pick up on what James said about the amount of metal that is owned and the amount of physical metal, and those two unfortunately are not the same number, which sounds madness. That you could own metal that's not necessarily there. It's all to do with allocated and unallocated. If the way that we do things and the way that we help people is only by 100% allocated metals, what does that mean? It means you buy this piece of gold, you know the serial bar number, you know where it is, and you are the only owner. And when you want to get it delivered or redeemed or sold, you know exactly what you're selling or exactly what you're getting because it's the serial bar number that you bought. That sounds logical, and I guess like people would probably expect, but there is a way of buying metals which is unallocated. And what that says is there's some companies out there that you can buy 10 grams of gold. You don't know which 10 grams you've got. You don't know what bar it is or where it is. You just know that if you want to get some metals redeemed, delivered to you or sold, you've got 10 grams. Now think about it. That 10 grams doesn't need to exist at that moment. It needs to exist at the time you want it delivered, or some 10 grams need to exist at that point. It's exactly how the banks work. What the banks say is, yes, give us your money, we'll lend it out, but if everyone went to withdraw their money from the bank, the money wouldn't be there. It's unallocated. It's not allocated to you. Banks don't work in the same sense of you have £100 or $100, you put it in a safety deposit box, and you know the serial numbers of those notes, and it's the same money that you take out that you put in. That would be far too logical. The way that it works is you put the money in, it goes off and is lent out to other people, and the bank just need to produce the money when you want it. And that's how unallocated metals work, meaning that there can be more owners than there is the metal behind it. That for us worries us. So we protect ourselves and we urge everyone to buy 100% allocated metals that you know exactly what they are, you know where they are, and there's no other ownership. So I know that's a bit of a deep dive into it, but it's really, really important. If you want to buy something, you also want to own it. And in most circumstances, when you're buying things, the buying and the ownership come together. There are some ways of buying metals where the buying and the ownership are not connected. So, yeah, 100% allocated metals.
It'll be interesting to see if anybody else, any of the central banks, jump on the same train as Russia. And see if they start buying any more silver. If they follow on suit with them. If that happens, then yeah, I should think that'll be a big mover. But yeah, expecting big things from silver, more so than gold, I think, in the future.
Well, talking about central banks, they're reportedly buying Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. What's your thoughts on that, Paul?
Bitcoin is fast showing that it is a hedge against inflation. People are scared as well. In more recent years, economies have collapsed and currencies have become worthless. You know, we look towards South America, for example, when their money went through hyperinflation. And once you start down hyperinflation, you can't stop it. It's game over for your economy. So over there, they bought Bitcoin. Their government tried to stop them, but they were buying Bitcoin as a hedge against this, because to try and lay your hands on lots of gold at once, let's be fair, gents, could you lay your hands on 20 bars by tomorrow?
We probably could, but we're a bit of an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously there's that. But for average Joe working, it's hard. So they were all scattering to buy what they could asset-wise. And I shouldn't say Bitcoin's an asset, because it isn't. It's a speculation token, shall we say. But it is showing as a hedge against inflation and economy collapse.
I think, Paul, if you've got something that's going down by 20%, and you've got something else that might go down by 5%, but it might go up by 5%, I know which I'd rather have. And I think people are moving from a position of losing a lot of value and trying to grab onto things that are either losing less value, and that's still a win in our eyes, or maintaining their value, and on the very extreme, increasing in value. I think that's what we're all trying to do, isn't it? And I think that's a maybe more extreme and obvious case when there's hyperinflation. But it's the same with all fiat currencies. We're all trying to ditch our paper money that goes down in value over time. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And exchange that for something that goes up in value or maintains value over time. So I think for us, we'd rather do it before the panic sets in. And do it because strange things can happen when people are panicking and trying to buy things in a hurry. But it's we're all doing the same thing, just on different ends of the scale, I would say.
Right, I'm going to head into my last story of the day, and we have to say this because the BRICS conference in Kazan, led by Putin, has wound down now, and coming out of that is something quite exciting. We've got 13 new partner countries that have signed up. We have Algeria, Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Nigeria, Thailand, Turkey, Uganda, Uzbekistan, and Vietnam. I mean, that is quite exciting. More countries are signing up. And let's not even forget, they tested BRICS Pay while they were there as well.
It's a big move.
And I believe...
I was going to say, some of these economies as well are emerging economies, and the growth that they're having is huge. I think it's a big shift, and it's a very big alliance, and it's something to watch out for. I think the US needs to be careful that they don't push more people into joining the BRICS alliance, which then will hurt them even more. And as we know, when someone feels or a country feels their grip of control, they're losing control over time, they go down fighting. So it'd be something to watch for sure.
How I see it is that you've got the BRICS nation and, countries joining them. Then you've got Europe that are staying with the EU, Euro, and then you've got UK, and then you've got the USA.
Yeah, I think it's all to do with where people have where the loyalties lie. And I think while ever you are towing the Western US line, then all things are good and all things are possible. They say jump, US says jump, Europe says how high. And same with, there's NATO, and it's all about defense, and you're all kind of grouped in together. The countries that seem to be joining BRICS aren't so strongly aligned with the US in the first place. And that makes it so much easier for them to join BRICS, because they're saying, well, we're not that strongly aligned already, so our loyalty, a little bit, but maybe not loads. And they're the countries that are more likely to be sanctioned from, say, the SWIFT system or using the US dollar. So why would you not have a plan B? If you're not that aligned with the US that's setting the rules, why not make other relationships and not just have one relationship with the US that governs everything. I think you're going to see it's going to get to a point where BRICS will continue to build momentum. And if countries do get sanctioned that are part of BRICS, the impact is going to be less and less and less, because they already have this other alliance and other partners that they can trade with, and they don't need the US dollar. So the tides are definitely turning. This is a big shift, and I think it's something that we've not seen for a very long time when you look out through history, that the dominant power is being challenged. And the last thing to go is always the world reserve currency, and the US hold the keys to that at the minute. So yeah, big shift. I think God willing, in our lifetime, we're going to see a big shift of power.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for joining us on The Gold Show. This week's lucky winner is Karen DeJoyce. Congratulations, you have won a 1 ounce silver coin. If you want to join our weekly competition to win a 1 ounce silver coin, watch our show and then go to our website, thegoldshow.com/competition, and answer the question to be re-entered into the free draw to have your chance to win. Just a reminder, you have to re-enter each week to enter into the lucky draw. Any questions about any of the topics we have spoken about today? Email questions@thegoldshow.com, which will be read out on next week's show. So for now, gentlemen, it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Hey, see you everyone. You take care. Have a cracking weekend.